Hi, guys. Today we have another episode of our Let's Talk series. We have some leaders coming in to talk to us regularly about their experiences and about how they seek to influence the world. And today I am really excited to bring Gabe Salazar to you, and he is going to join me right now. We'll give him an intro in about 5 seconds here. Hello, Gabe.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. So, guys, this is Gabe Salazar, youth speaker, public influencer, and outspoken personality. Really glad to have you here with us today, Gabe. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I'm at home right now, but we've still been doing things. I'm really tired of this whole conversation of new normal. Here's the new normal. No, wearing masks are not normal. Walking around in discouragement, in anxiety, and even depression. All these things are not normal. And so I'm really from the perspective of encouraging people to realize that we will get through this together, and we'll get through this in a quicker manner. I think also when we're united, and that's one thing I think I really admire about you is that you really believe in what our country is providing, what our country can do, that the American dream still exists. And I've also heard people saying, "Oh, the American dream doesn't exist for everybody." That is not true. I was born to a teen mom. I was abandoned by my father as a kid. I grew up homeless,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I was a product of alternative schools. But a principal, his name is Dr. Langston Williams, came into my life, and he became my mentor. I remember I was in alternative school, and I was transitioning back to the regular public school. And so he came over and he met with me, and he said, "Gabe, I know that you're going to be coming back to regular school, but here's the plan. You can't eat in the cafeteria," because he knew about more gang violence. He said, "You have to eat in my office." And he
Hmm.
put books in front of me like Malcolm Gladwell, John Maxwell, and
Nice.
it started teaching me things, because I think I grew up from like a victim mentality, like, "Oh, woe is me, and I'm angry because of this, and I'm angry because of
Which is
that."
very popular today. A lot of kids grow up like that.
Yeah, and I think there was here's like the first perspective that was presented to me. He goes, "Gabe, let me talk about the word RESPECT, respect." He goes, "Is respect earned or given?" I said, "Respect is earned. You got to earn respect with me, you know." And that's the way I grew up on the streets, is thinking you got to earn respect. And then he goes, "No, it's not. Everybody should be respected. Can they
Mm.
lose respect? Yes. Can they gain respect back? Yes. Respect is a commodity, but everybody has to start with a level of that zero, feeling like the zero, meaning the even balance of everybody deserves respect." And really
Yes.
what he was teaching me was the golden rule: do unto everybody as you would want them to do unto you. and
Wow.
and so principles like that, and not just a physical principle, but philosophies and mentalities of not being a victim mentality. So I went to college, and I graduated, pursued my degree in theology and professional development, became an educator at a school. And one day I got up on stage because we had a school assembly, and all of our kids were in the auditorium. They're getting ready to have this big Say No to Drugs Prevention rally in a school in San Antonio, Texas. And the kids were waiting and waiting. And my class was waiting and waiting. And then my principal walks up and says, "Hey, Gabe, I just got a call. The speaker can't make it. And I know you got a big mouth. Will you get up on stage, and will you give them about 5 minutes of a pep rally thing on drug prevention?" And I got up on stage, and I kind of shared what I shared with you right now. I had every reason to fail. I was in
Nice.
school, but something happened in my life, and I made a conscious decision to say, I'm not going to be a failure. I'm going to pursue success, and it's going to be up to me. If it's meant to
Now,
be,
I
it's up
have
to
a
me.
question on that one. So, when you were asked to speak right there, because I'm all about these moments in life, the moments that we choose to be who we are. Did you even consider not speaking, or for you, was it just like, no, I'm going to do it? Did you have to push yourself up there? Were you nervous? What brought
No,
you to be that influential?
I've always been a big mouth, and I would always start my classes like that. I was. I mean, I don't come from like a preacher family. I don't come from
Hmm.
a speaker family, even at that. But I would use little tidbits, like there's that old story that says there was a boy walking on the beach of water, and he saw all of these starfish that were beached and were going to die that day from the sun.
Yeah.
And so the boy began to grab the starfish and throw each one as he could into the ocean to save them. And a guy walked by and said, "Hey, what are you doing? There's millions of these starfish that are going to die today." And the boy says, "Well, but at least I've made a difference in this one."
Yeah.
Now that's an old story. A lot of people have heard kind of that thing, but I would start every class like that. And so I got better and better and better at it. And I think that's one skill of speaking, and it prepared me for that very moment, because the moment I got up on stage and I shared kind of my story and did a little pep rally. What do you do, kids, when somebody tells you to do drugs? No, can you guys be louder? I bet you guys can be louder. Well, when I finished, two guys in suits in the back of the room walked right up to me. And I had no idea who they were. They didn't work for the school district. They said, "Hi, we're with an advertisement firm. We came to observe the original speaker that was supposed to be here. We happen to see you. We're working on a tour for ExxonMobil. Would you like to consider being on our tour?" Next thing you know, I'm traveling the nation with astronaut Bernard Harris and encouraging the power of education. And
That's
so
amazing. Oh my goodness. Wow.
So that's kind of how I believe like the American dream exists. You've got to really go for it. There's attributes and philosophies and things that I've learned. And so I wanted to join with you today because one of my beliefs is you're never too young to make a difference. And I believe there's a lot of people that are probably even watching today that are feeling like, man, I can't make a difference, because I'm in high school or I'm too small. Well, obviously they've never slept in a room with a mosquito, because
a little thing can make a big difference, right?
Absolutely. That's the point there. Well,
I love it.
Let's get into our topic today.
Yeah, so here's, you already kind of hit on one of the first questions for me, which was your life story. I love hearing where people came from and why they do what they do. And you kind of you started us off fast paced with that, which I love. I mean, that is amazing. And I think something I would just add on to that in my experience and my opinion is that American dream, that opportunity that you found came after you were willing to take a leap. You were willing to put yourself out there. So if you hadn't chosen to be that speaker, if you hadn't stepped up and said, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm passionate about, I'm going to do it, those guys in the suits wouldn't have heard you. And you wouldn't have been touring with an astronaut. And you wouldn't have been able to see the United States all around the place. So that's I think, be willing to take a chance. And like you said, I can't echo Gabe enough here, guys. Don't believe you're too young to make a difference. Don't believe you're too small. Don't believe you're insignificant. That's not true. You have people who you can influence in your life. You have a passion. You have a purpose, and you can find it and use it. My next question, I guess you and I talked privately a little bit about this, is education. This goes along because you said that an educator is largely who changed your life, this principle. So let's speak about education, what your thoughts are on modern education, the needs, the strengths, the weaknesses. Talk to us a little bit about that in light of your experience.
Well, it's funny that you said exactly what kind of sets me up. You said modern education. We have been living and working in education in this perspective of from the Industrial Revolution, reading, writing, arithmetics. And it's been this idea of, you go to school, you put your hours in. If you're absent, then you're not perfect. And of course, you guys remember, everybody watching, when there's always that one person that never got sick all their elementary, middle school, or high school year, and they give them an award.
Perfect attendance. Yes.
And when I think about that, basically, you're telling them, we're giving you an award because even when you had the flu, even when you were deathly ill, you came to school. Now, I'm from the perspective of, we need to open the schools back. I'm here in Texas, and we're a little bit more aggressive. There are private schools, Catholic schools, charter schools that are deciding that they're going to go ahead and open up with under the restricted guidelines, which are very important. I know that there's teachers that are concerned for their livelihood and for their health as well, and they've got a lot of different concerns. But what we don't need right now is a stupid generation. We don't need a generation that's like, I don't really understand or know how to do this, and I'm just going to take all my information from what I see in social media or on mainstream media. No, we need a group of students who have read simple books like 1984 or Fahrenheit 450, and on and on. So I think when we have these students who have a foundation of an understanding, it's going to be very important for the future of our nation. Now, I do understand also that the reasons why I think we should open up is, one, over 22 million kids in America rely on a healthy, nutritious meal in schools. So I really believe it's important to make sure that these kids, and we saw the numbers already from these drive-by luncheons that were great last school year, at the end of last school year during the peak of quarantine. But so many kids did not, because they usually rely on the bus or other public transportation, and they were not able to get meals. Now, I don't believe we have 22 million starving kids who are about to, die from starvation in America today,
Right.
especially when you look at the obesity rate. But what I really mean is like healthy, nutritious meals. So are there intentional, conscious meals that are being provided for our children to live a long and healthy life? No. And that's where we have 22 million kids in America that don't have that provided for them. Another reason why I think it's very important that we open our schools is because, if you do, childwelfare.gov posts the results and talks about how, whether it's neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or even psychological treatment, which also is a form of abuse. Do you know that we have 1 in every 1,000 kids that's sexually abused in America? 1 in 1,000. So think about the fact that a huge percentage of these kids, the place where they do an outcry is where? At schools.
At school, right?
Schools.
Of course.
So when they don't have a counselor, a teacher, I would assume the educator with the most anxiety right now in America is a counselor, because they know what these kids are going through, whether it's anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide.
And those kids are alone now.
Or they're locked up with their abuser.
Yes. Wow. Those are some powerful thoughts. On top of that, I would add, and I would encourage people to do their research on COVID-19, which is the reason for most of these public schools at least being shut down. And like you said, private schools are a little bit of a different category. The public schools shut down due to COVID-19. COVID-19 death rates in school-age children are lower than flu death rates. So, and I don't want this to be misheard, misinterpreted. COVID-19 as a disease is more dangerous than the flu. However, the death rates are disproportionately heavy on the elderly population and people who are going to school, which is typically between the ages of 3 and 19 years old. That the death rate in that demographic is lower than the seasonal flu. So this argument that, well, we need to protect our kids and keep them home, or even teachers who, again, are not in the demographic that is most heavily affected by, on average, based on their age, are not in the demographic most heavily affected by COVID-19. So I support, as you said, these guidelines, being safe when we go back to school, giving particular care to elderly teachers who may or may not want to go back to school and risk it. I understand that. But by and large, the people who run our schools and who go to school as children, they are not in these demographics that are most heavily affected by COVID-19. And then, as you said, there's a lot of long-term loss that we can experience that we are not talking about. So we're thinking about the short-term loss, but we're saying, you and I are thinking through this and saying, okay, but what about the long-term? Yeah. What suffering are we going to see as a result of stripping this education and stripping this nutrition from these kids in a multi-year sense? So I think we see eye to eye on that.
Yeah, and the recovery rates for our children are extremely high, actually. So, I mean, it's less than 3.3% of the kids who have got it actually had to be admitted. I mean, it's almost little to nothing.
Yes.
And so the recovery rates are very high. Many of our kids who have received, been tested positive for COVID have recovered without even knowing they had any symptoms. And that's something. So, okay, now I got to say, all of our students who are watching that are seniors in high school, I know that there's been this whole like, oh my gosh, this has been the worst year. Why on my year? I didn't get my prom. And I got to tell you, Ryan, everybody that's telling kids, hey, prom's not a big deal. Hey, graduation's not a big deal. They're liars. Because it is. It's fun.
It is a big deal.
It's easy to say that when you didn't get it. But I really think who's really going to miss out are actually our next school year. The 2020-2021 graduating class. They may not have actual school, depending on what state you're watching this from right now. And so detrimental to me because also, and I'm not sure what they call it in every state, but UIL, the competing where it's sanctioned competitions within
Yes,
schools.
yes. Within schools, education competitions, right?
Yes. So you
Yes.
think about the scholarships that many of our students rely on, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, whether they play the oboe in symphonic or their science competitions now, that they will not be able to rely on these scholarships. And that is sad for many of our kids because so many of our students look forward, work very hard, and have been working very hard for the last 3-4 years of their school in order to accomplish this opportunity, and it may be stolen from them if we don't get back to school and take small baby steps to move the ball forward.
And if you were a rising senior, so a junior last year and a rising senior in high school this year, then you might not be able to graduate this year. You might be delayed by a year if your school doesn't go back, because then it's like you never did your senior year. So then your college is pushed back by a year and your entire life is shifted because of what is happening. Now, this is a reason, something along with education, these types of things happening specifically in public schools are why I'm a big proponent, a piece of why I'm a big proponent of school choice. I believe that we need to support private schools as an option. I believe that specifically lower income individuals will be helped by school choice because they're already paying out money to taxes. And if that money comes back to them, then they have the ability to go to some of those private or charter schools that you're talking about, where they're saying, look, my public school is failing me and I'm being forced to pay them anyway out of my taxes. But now I have this voucher coming back to me, and now I have the choice, the freedom to further my education or to wait for the public school to reopen. So I think that's an advantage. Do you have any opinions on school choice? What's your experience been?
Well, I've actually been supporting school choice for quite a while. And I feel bad for many cities and communities across the nation that even though they have some type of Robin Hood Act where the resources are spread out, still the quality of education is landsliding not to their favor. So the ability to be able to say, hey, I pay a lot of taxes in this area because of gentrification, right? But yet the education has not, the quality of education has not increased. Well, I think in that regard, they should have the ability to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to take my education elsewhere.
Yes.
And go and put this, even towards private school, if they so choose care, because it's their tax money. They should be able to do what they want to do with that money or not. And truth is, a lot of parents don't realize the power they have. A lot of parents will just say, well, that's what the principal said, or that's what the superintendent said, but you're their boss. You have the ability to join the PTA or the PTO and get involved and have a voice into what into the decision making that they're choosing. Hey, I did want to say, Holly Ann said my mom is a lunch lady and she served about 800 kids per day, and she was just one kid at school and saw there was like 5 spots and also buses. And to that, I just refer back to the comment I said earlier. That's phenomenal, Holly Ann. I applaud your mom. My mom is actually still a school bus driver and would also work in the school as a lunch lady. So I admire tremendously the work that they do. However, that is not true for every community in America. I live in Dallas, Texas now, and we moved here from Los Angeles. And so many of our kids, because of magnet schools, they have to go to school. They have to wake up 3 hours earlier in order to take several connecting buses to get to their school to receive their lunches. So in some communities, that it doesn't work. And I personally heard from many families that said, Gabe, we need meals, we need food. Where can we find it?
I love it.
And communities like Holly Ann's, and I wish they had moms like Holly Ann's, but not all do.
Yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of local government, right? Is we can find things that are tailored to our community to work, but I think everyone should be given an opportunity to have something that's effective and cost effective in their education, and then effective in their wallet for them and their family. So a question I have that kind of builds off of that idea, and I know you said you'll have to go pretty soon here. So last question is, I'm a big supporter of vocational schools. I'm a big supporter of the trades. So whether this is becoming a plumber, becoming a car mechanic, becoming a blacksmith. These types of jobs that are actually heavily needed and many times pay more than people who go to college. I'm a big supporter of those being treated as social success stories. So what we see right now is that I think you and I probably grew up in generations where we were told, if you want to be successful, go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, and then get into the workforce. That's the success story.
And you're
and
even
I think
more successful if you go to Ivy League.
Exactly. And that's it. And, we don't hear about the debt. We don't hear about the low job placement. We don't hear about the kids with history degrees who are now working as Starbucks baristas. But that's the reality of it. While sometimes we've got these people going to become a plumber making $80,000 entry level in their job right after plumbing school. And there's no shame in that. To me, I think we need to change the narrative and say, these are all success stories. I love college. I went to college, but it's not for everybody. It's not the only way to find a future. What do you think about that?
Well, I say traditional college is not for everybody, but education, furthered education is for everybody. So it's going to look different. I ask people all the time, what is success? And do you want to be successful? Everybody says yes. But the problem is that our definition of success is different for everybody.
Yes.
Now, why is it that we think the kid who graduates magna cum laude with a 4.0 going and got accepted to every Ivy League school is more successful than the kid who goes to community college? Now most people would say, oh, that's not true. Yes, we do. We do think that.
Yeah.
It's not true. Why do we think the person who drives the Tesla is more successful than the person who drives the Kia? But we do. And so the problem is this comparison. We compare our success so much. Seniors receive a lot of anxiety because they're like, where are you going? What are you doing? Look what your neighbor's doing. Look what your friend's doing. And forget what they're doing. What are your goals? What are your plans? Now, the worst thing you can do is stay at home and do nothing. And but I encourage kids, hey, I'm not, and don't misunderstand me, but I tell kids, if you don't know, join the military. But the worst thing you could do is go to even community college and waste $5,000 to $10,000 and do nothing. Unless you're that rich to do that. Because even with the military, you can get into a good soft skills environment, and you can come out with a GI Bill and
100% good connections, leadership training, everything. Yeah.
So I really promote that further education. I'm sorry for what the 90s did for our education, saying,
Amen.
Getting rid of vocationals, even cosmetology. There's people in cosmetology industry that are making almost $100,000 a year doing what they love doing, sitting there doing nails and gossiping. I'm just kidding. But it's what they love to do. And that's what I really want for kids. Don't end up doing something that you hate, that you regret.
Yes.
You're like, man, this is not success. This is depressing, doing what I'm having to do. Find joy and fulfillment in everything that you do. It's not about living in the big homes. It's not about having all the nice and fancy things. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Is there anything wrong with not having? No. But there's something wrong in comparison. So I say stop comparing and start preparing for your success.
Wow, I love it. And there's that speaker training. There's that seasoned public speaker coming out in you. I love it. And I would add on to that. Look, I think that making $120K a year and being depressed every time you go into work because you hate your job is not success. To me, that's not success. I would rather make $50K a year and love going into my job every day. To me, that is a greater success story. As long as I'm providing for my family and I am happy with the way that I am doing it, that is more important to me than the sheer accolades and money that comes in.
And that's the American dream.
That is the American dream. Exactly.
To do it your way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Gabe, give us some closing thoughts here. And guys, go ahead, follow Gabe Salazar. This has been awesome. And give us some inspiration for specifically young leaders, and then we'll sign off.
Hey, you always hear the statement that you are not a future leader, you're a leader now. So I say, when I was a kid, when I was in high school, we had drama clubs and chess clubs and ski clubs and stuff like that. But we have clubs now with students who are changing the world. When I go to schools and I ask kids about their clubs, because I do a lot of speaking for like like student council or PALs or
Yeah.
ASBs. I do all these. And I love it when kids come and tell me, hey, our club, we dug 30 wells this year. And I was in San Diego, California 2 years ago, and this club came to me and said, Gabe, we rescued 7 girls from the slave
Mm.
trade industry by selling cookies and
Gosh.
brownies, brother.
Mm.
And to me, I think this generation is not the generation to sit on their hands,
Yes.
but it's the generation to do something, make a difference. Guys, if you're turning 18, get registered to vote. Um, and of course, one of my personal philosophies and all of the stuff that we're going through right now is always remember nothing positive comes from hatred or anger. It's going to come from good conversations and changing policies and voting. So get out there and make a difference in that regard. Um, pick up a pen and vote. Don't pick up a brick. It's not going to make a difference. So I really encourage you guys for that. And if you're interested and you line up with what we're talking about here, please follow me at official Gabe Salazar. I do follow back. And if you'd like for me to speak at your school, your college, or your university, I don't do a lot of political stuff, but I do talk about the American dream. I do talk about stop giving excuses and stop wishing and start dreaming is actually the principle that I talk about. So the dreams represent the journey, the steps, the process, and I love teaching people how to develop their plan. And so thank you for your time. I appreciate it today.
Awesome. Awesome, Gabe. Guys, check out Gabe Salazar's page. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yes,
Everybody,
sir.
stay inspired, stay active, be bold, be fearless, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.